So, hey, it's Nancy, the nurse practitioner, and I know you've been seeing some of my silly videos as a baby boomer and what I'm doing on my channel, Caregiver Success, but there's some very important things that we need to talk about, and as my book is being rebranded called Caregiver Success Tips and Tools, I have some extra chapters that I put in the book, and one of them is about hospice. And a lot of people have misconceptions about what hospice does and what it doesn't do. Just recently, one of my friends' companion, the doctor said, "Oh, don't put him on hospice because, they're just going to let him die." I had to kind of help her with that. She was a physician's assistant. She worked in the ICUs, but she didn't know anything about hospice. And I had to let her know that she would have more support with hospice than if she didn't have it at all. So I think we should go over some of this because I think people, and including a lot of clinicians, think that it's the end of the line and that there's going to be no help for you and support. And the one thing that we all have to know is we all are going to die, and whether we die in a situation where we have quality of life, or whether we decide that we want to have heroics tried for all means and measures, depends on our wishes. But in the end, we're all going to die. So it's that path we have to decide. So let's go over some common misconceptions that are about hospice. And this is in my book that's coming out soon. So I'm just getting you ready for that. So some clinicians think that when a person is placed on hospice, or even family think this, that they will never get off the program. That's the first misconception. That everyone has given up on the person's medical care. Hospice care is for the last few days of life. These are all misconceptions. You need a referral from your clinician to get on hospice. The patient has to give up all his medications and take morphine. You have to be homebound to be on hospice. Hospice ends at the end of death, at the time of death. Hospice ends at the time of death. The patient cannot go to the ER for any reason. And concurrent care, which means having more than one clinician, is accessible for children but not for adults. So to help dispel the above myths, let's go over some of this. Hospice lasts for 14 months, even after the person passes away. And it allows support for the family, and they get outreach letters. So hospice continues even after the person passes away. The person can decide at any time to cancel hospice. Okay? Anyone can make a referral to hospice. You do not have to have a doctor or a nurse practitioner make that referral. And the patient is in control and can decide not to take any of the medications that come in the palliative care kit. And in that kit are medications for nausea, agitation, pain, trouble breathing or shortness of breath, perhaps, constipation. And they're all kept in the refrigerator, and they're all oral or sublingual, where they just go, underneath the tongue. If the person needs sutures or a procedure, he is allowed to go to the hospital, to the ER for care. And an adult can't have more than one clinician while on hospice. So I thought I would just go over that with you. And I will tell you that, and I have this in my book, that when patients did come to me and they were elderly on a lot of medications, not only did I take them off things like statins and sometimes even Aricept, but when they were on hospice, many of those meds were just removed. And most of the time, many of the patients felt much better. Some of them didn't even need blood pressure medicine anymore because they have been losing weight. They're no longer getting out of bed. Their readings were really low. And so, they didn't need the medication. Things like Prevacid and any PPI, I would remove those too, just to make the food easier to digest if they weren't having any more problems with heartburn or GERD or reflux or any of that. Okay, so that's another thing to look at. When you go on hospice, It's usually a palliative program where we give the person the best quality of life. They bring in massage therapy, music therapy, you get a home health aide, you have a visiting nurse, and you have 24-hour on-call service. There is a medical director that backs up the nurse. Physical therapy can come in. They take care of acute problems, and the person is supposed to just stay at home. And that's what most of my patients were like. They were palliative care. Many of them were edging towards hospice, and sometimes they were on hospice for even 2 years. And sometimes people even graduate off of hospice, which sounds strange, but sometimes they got better, somewhat better, and didn't progress towards the dying stage. So they were gaining weight, they were eating, they were walking better, whatever, they had no pain, and they were actually taken off the hospice. And hospice could come back again in another 6 months and start all over again. But once they reached a place where they had progress, they were sometimes taken off the program. Now, there's 3 levels of hospice care. There's the routine, where the nurse and the aide come, the chaplain comes whenever you need them, and it's called symptom management. And then there's the respite part. It's mostly for family members, where the patient goes to a facility like a hospice house for 4 days and 4 nights, and the caregiver gets to rest. And it can be a trial to see if they want to eventually go and stay in the facility, especially with caregiver burnout, where they just running out of steam, or the caregiver themselves is elderly, and they're having difficulty keeping up with their own self-care. And then the final type of hospice care is the terminal restlessness, which is where the person is sent to a center and they have more issues to resolve. This is where a set of symptoms that can happen at the end of a person's life is that they become more agitated, they become more emotionally distressed and confused and difficult to communicate with. And that is called the terminal restlessness phase. The important thing also for everyone to think about before we get into a crisis is to have advance directives and a healthcare proxy in place. Who is going to be your proxy? Who's going to make decisions for you when you can't do it anymore? And who's your backup in case that person's not available? You can write out your wishes and put it in your lockbox. You can give a copy to your doctor. You should carry it with you when you go to the hospital. That's really important for you to know. Oh, and one more important thing about hospice is you do not have to be homebound. So this is really good information for people to have. And it doesn't mean that you're giving up on the person you love. What you're doing is you're providing more supportive, palliative care with another dimension of care involved, because as I mentioned, we are all going to die someday or other. So this is one of my chapters in the book. It's Nancy the NP from YouTube on Caregiver Success. Please check out my other videos as I'm a baby boomer aging, going through this process with you. And I will certainly let you know as the book is coming out. It will be in an ebook, it will be in a hard copy, and it will be in a paperback. And I'm hoping to do some audiobooks as well. So take care, everyone. God bless, and see you at the next video. And please subscribe to my channel. Bye-bye now.